Hello. I think we can all agree that 2020 was not a great year for productivity. So for this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build this tool that I'm using to increase my productivity in 2021. So the way that this tool works is you have each day from January 1st to December 31st in this column. And in each column after that, you have your tasks that you want to get done by the end of the year or something that you want to work on. So in this chart, a 0 means that you did not work on it for the day, and a 1 indicates that you did work on it for the day. And if you finish working on whatever you want, you just add a finished here, or done, and I will show you how to implement custom formatting for each cell. So over on this left, it's just a counter of how many activities you did for the day. So it'll count all the tasks that you worked on and all the tasks that you finished, and include them in the counter. And then down here at the bottom, we'll have your totals for the year, and it'll indicate how many days total that you've worked, how many mildly productive days you've had, how many productive days, and these are both subjective, and I'll show you how to implement these functions later, and then how many tasks you have finished and how many days you did not work at all. So let's see how we can create this chart. So obviously the first thing we want to do is create a new Google Sheet, and I've named this productivity chart template, but you can name it whatever you want, productivity for 2021, etc., etc. The first thing that we want to do is make our date column. So we'll just name it date. We're going to format all the cells so that the text is in the center, because I just think it looks nicer. So you're going to start with 1/1/2021. And then we're going to drag this all the way down to row 366. So now we have all the dates from January 1st to December 31st. And the only thing we want to do with the date column is highlight what the current date is. So to do that, we'll just highlight the entire column B. We're going to go to Format, Conditional Formatting, and we'll just click Format Cells if date is today. And we'll change this to neon green so that it stands out. So now we're done with the date column. So the next thing we want to do is format the body so that we can handle all our zeros, our ones, our dones, and our finished. So we'll just go back down to the bottom, click here, C366. We'll click Control Shift, click the right arrow. That'll take us down to the Z column, and then we'll click up, and that'll take us to the first row. But we don't want the first row because that's where our titles are going to be. So we're just going to let go of Control and hold down Shift and click the down arrow key once. So now we have our selection of our body. So we'll just click Format, Conditional Formatting, and we'll say Format Cells if the cell is equal to 0. And so when our cell is equal to 0, we want to change the cell color fill to light red. And we'll click Done and see that our range is C2 to Z366. Now we'll add another rule. If our cell is equal to 1 for when we worked on it, then we'll make it yellow because we haven't finished it yet, we've only worked on it. These colors are also up to you. I just like using a red, yellow, green color scheme, but you can choose whatever colors you'd like. And then we'll add another rule. If our cell contains the word done, then we'll just keep it at green. And if our cell contains finished, we'll also keep it green. So now you can select whatever cell. You have 0, you have your ones, you have done, and you have finished. And our custom formatting will change the color for you. And when you delete it, it goes back to white. So let's create some mock tasks. Task 1, Task 2, Task 2, and Task 3. And just fill it in with some random data. So now we're going to want to handle our counter column. This is going to count how many tasks we've either worked on or finished on a certain day. So our formula for the counter is sort of complex. So we're going to click A2. We're going to click the function bar up here. We're going to type in equals if, and we'll say if B2 is less than or equal to now. And that just means that if this cell has already passed, or if it is today, then we're going to do something with that cell. So if B2 is less than or equal to now, then we want to count the sum of C2 to Z2 plus the count if C2 or Z2 is finished plus count if C2 to Z2 is done. And otherwise, we're going to leave it blank. So basically what this formula does is if our date column, if the value in our date column has passed or is today, then the counter cell will show the sum of C2 to Z2 and also include if C2 to Z2 has a cell that has finished in it or has a cell that has done in it. And otherwise it will be blank. And that'll make sense if I drag it down here. So now you can see that this counter only gives a value up until the current date. And if you click on A17 or whatever the current day is when you're watching this, the cell will have the formula in it, but it won't display anything because we've told this cell to look at the B column, and if this date is greater than today's date, it won't display anything. So now you can just continue to drag the formula all the way down to 366. And for each row, it'll change to the correct row. So the next thing we're going to want to do is to format our counter column to keep track of how productive we've been. So this is all subjective, but we're going to go to formatting, and we'll say that if our counter is less than or equal to 2, then we're going to say that's going to be a mildly productive day. And your definition of a mildly productive day may be different than mine. You can change this value to be 3, 4, 5, etc., etc. For me, I'm going to put 2. We're going to add another rule. If it's greater than or equal to 3, which is going to be my definition of a regular productive day, then we'll just leave it at green. And if it's 0, if we haven't done anything, then we'll say if it's equal to 0, we'll say that our fill color for the cell will be red. I added this conditional formatting rule, but we have zeros, but they're still yellow. The reason this is because Google Sheets prioritizes the formatting rules on top over the ones below. So we'll just have to drag this up here, and that'll make these red. So now our rules apply to every cell in column A. So now we can go down here, and at the end of the year, we can add our totals for the year. So we'll have days worked, we'll have our mildly productive days, and I'm going to merge these just so that it looks nice. And we'll have our productive days, how many tasks we finished, and how many days we did not work. So in our days worked column, we're going to add another formula, and we'll say equals count if A2 to A366 is greater than 0. And the way the COUNTIF function works is you give it a range and you give it a condition, and basically it'll look at our A column and count how many days we've had that are greater than 0. And for our mildly productive days, we're going to want more than one condition. So for this, we're going to use our COUNTIFs formula. And this just means you can give it more than one range or criteria. So we'll say COUNTIF A2 through A66 is greater than 0. And if A2 through A366 is less than 3. And these will depend on your values of a mildly productive days. But basically this means it's just counting all of the yellow cells in our A column. And for our productive days, we're just going to use another COUNTIF because we only want one. And this is going to count our A column is greater than our definition of a productive day, which in my case is greater than or equal to 3. So then we go to task finished, and we'll add an equal count if C2 through Z366 is equal to finished. And we'll add this to another count if C2 through Z366 is equal to done. If not int, and we'll have 1 because we have one finished task. And if we just add another statement that says done, this is just an example, then it'll also go up by 1. And for did not work, we just want to count all the red rows of column A that have 0. So we'll just say equal count if A2 through A366 is equal to 0. And we have 2 days so far that we did not work. And now your chart is done. If you want to add some bars to it so that it looks a little bit nicer, then you can just click up here and add a border. That'll just make your spreadsheet look a little bit nicer. But other than that, you are good to go. And if you want to add a new task, you can just start tracking that whenever. So if you start working on a new task, you just add it here. Thanks for watching, and I hope that your 2021 can be more productive than 2020 was. Good luck.